Welcome to Tailgate Talk. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas. And, hopefully you have a very happy, merry new... I don't know how to say this. Anyway, it's the new year. We're turning the page to 2023. But before we officially do that, of course, got to look back on 2022, which I know we did a little bit last week on the show. It's Ritter and Tasker with Wags out this week. Again, you want to follow us on socials. It is at On The Tailgate, or Tailgate Talk. I'm at The Real Ritter, as in fishing reel, and Wisco Bow Hunting, or at Wisco Bow Hunting is Eric Tasker. But we did a lot of cool stuff this past year, and we were hitting on some of it last week on the show. Is there someone or something that stands out the most that was a really cool highlight moment on this show particular?
Are you asking about the Okayest Hunter show? Because that was pretty cool.
That was great, Eric, and everything that we got to on that. It was, I wouldn't say it was cool. It was just kind of okay.
It was all right. It was okay.
If you missed it, this was kind of just how okay it was. This might be the most okayest show that we ever have on the history of both radio and podcast, because joining us this week of the show is, well, the Okayest Hunter, Eric Clark.
Yeah, this is pretty okay.
Now, where did the name and idea come from? Okayest Hunter.
It just came from me going on offense without having big bucks on my wall. When I started the podcast back in 2013, I started referring to myself somewhere along the way as the Okayest Hunter because, I didn't want people saying, well, you don't have any credibility. I'm like, yeah, no, duh, I already said that. So it was just me going on offense, and it started to kind of steamroll into something, so we went with it. And June 2020, we launched our company officially as the Okayest Hunter.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I stumbled upon you. I don't know if it was Instagram, TikTok, something. Anyone that hasn't seen or doesn't know anything about it, really, I catch a lot of the memes and stuff like that you do, which is funny. You're super, super entertaining. And then we find out that you're here in our neck of the woods, being that we're based in southeast Wisconsin out of Milwaukee. You're, what is it, Oconomowoc?
Yep.
So, we're basically neighbors, essentially. We get to, shake hands past the lakes.
I know I was considering coming there, but I couldn't swing it. So, virtual works out just fine, obviously.
Yeah, we've done enough of these now that it's just, even if people are, right here, or if it works out that they're able to come in, it's obviously great. I mean, we had the Vortex guys on, I don't know, it was a couple months. It was right before bow season.
Yeah.
And just talking about optics, of course, everything that they know. And even with them being so close, it's nice to have this option. We've kind of worked through this life now over the last 2 years where it's like, if you can't do something in person, you got to find a way to be able to communicate with people. So it's cool to get you on here. I know you're close, but I mean, it sounds great. I mean, we've done it enough times now that we're able to kind of figure this out. So
the main reason we wanted having the show and chit chat a bit this week was to talk about something that I know we're, I think, all exposed to, especially myself and Tasker: social media and outdoor social media. I think at times it's good, at times it's bad, and at times it gets a bad rap. Would you agree with that, Eric?
Yeah, well, it's funny. We just did a podcast. We do our podcast live on Tuesdays, so we broadcast it. We have a live call-in feature. People can type in and all that stuff. But there was some terminology that came up last night on the show. We were talking about ethics and our responsibility as hunters. So when you consider social media as a hunter or an outdoorsman or woman, you need to be careful with how you portray some of these things, because there's a younger generation coming up and they need to know and have some guidance about what is or isn't okay. So they got to have a good, bright line of right and wrong in terms of ethics and things like that. But also there's a number of people that don't hunt, which is fine, but they might not understand it. And so if the first thing they see on social media is a deer with a bolt through its head, which was circulating its way around social media recently, they might just assume, oh, that's terrible. A hunter did that. This is awful. And then because it has, 500,000 likes, then it seems to the younger generation, oh, this is okay because people like this content. Mm-hmm. That's the wrong message to put out there. So there's this is probably everywhere. It's not just hunting. If something goes viral, people then think, oh, I want to go viral. I'll put out some stark, contrasting clip of something that's borderline inappropriate. It's going to send the wrong message. So we have to be careful. But I think what we're trying to do at Okayest Hunter is, well, a number of things. But by and large, we're trying to create a welcoming culture within hunting. I don't want the neck to bite the head off. There's a lot of infighting. We're trying to cure that because there's more people that don't hunt. And when you get to the polls and you talk about ballot boxes and voting, it could get a little dicey for us as hunters. Like the things that we love and the heritage that we've built and the legacy that we have could go away. And that freaks me out a little bit. So we're trying really hard to kind of clean it up from the inside out.
I say all the time that the biggest problem that in any outdoors realm, whether it's hunting, fishing, anything that we face, is it's a PR problem. Our biggest problem is a PR problem. Like you said, the mouth bites you off of the head and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how many, we probably talked about that a half dozen times now, where it's just, it's constantly something that we see stuff like that picture you're talking about, where those are the things that get a ton of exposure. And then it's not all of the other things that are good, all of the people who are actually, doing good for their land that they might have, or, taking care of nature and being a good conservationist. And it's those other things that people see. Those are the things that get, the big spotlight features and, viral videos or whatever. So we're going to rely on you then, I guess, Eric, to help cure that from the inside out. So that's cool, man. I love seeing that stuff that you've been posting.
Thanks, I appreciate it. We'll see where it goes, but that's just how things are in life in general. No one. I joke, like, no one ever calls Verizon or US Cellular or AT&T to say, "Hey, great job today, guys."
Yeah, right.
It's like they are calling because they have a problem. So the negative always gets the most attention. I mean, that's how the news is. That's how things are. So the positivity stuff kind of goes on the radar. So we don't need to make it worse for ourselves. We just got to be a little bit cognizant of what it is we're putting out there for sure. We leverage humor to bring people in. One of our brand pillars is to be to relate to the other to other hunters. So most of what we're doing is you can relate to it as either a parent, a young hunter, an old hunter. It doesn't really matter. We're really trying to imbue that deer camp feel in most of what we do to kind of inspire that camaraderie, focus on the memories of field, all of the things that go into a hunt. It's kind of like baseball. It's boring as all heck.
Yeah, until good thing Legs isn't here.
Yeah, if you're deer hunting, not to say it's boring, but nature is you're enjoying that experience along the way, and maybe you see a deer or a turkey or an elk, and then it's like now you're gonna get out of your seat and dump peanuts everywhere, right? If you can focus on those other things, I think that's most of us. Of course, there are expert hunters. There's the whitetail adrenalines, the guys that actually do stuff, the Drury's, and they make things happen. That's not all of us. We're not all pro athletes on the field. We're just spectators. The thing with hunting is you can go actually do the sport and have fun and immerse yourself. So our focus is the larger demographic of the hunting category for sure. I think, of course, we all want big deer and aspire to do great things. I have 3 kids. I might be able to get out 2 days out of the season. So it's a challenge. Everyone's at a different place in their hunting journey, as we like to say.
100% hearing that. You mentioned, Drury's, other guys, stuff that's out there. Do you feel that those larger shows, whether it's, something on YouTube or something like actually on television, do you think it helps or hurts in the image? It's
a little bit of both. I think, they have a double-edged sword because it's such a bigger platform and they have a wider audience, those being maybe non-hunters and so forth. They then can't show the missed shots or the things that went wrong because it has such a large broadcast reach or large net that if someone sees that, they're going to, oh my God, these people are literally just televising them maiming an animal. But we as hunters know that goes on. So for us, we're small enough and nimble enough that we focus on the failures because we all have had them. Even if you're a Drury or an expert hunter or what have you, you've had what we call an Okayest moment. You've done something. You forgot your release. You dropped something down your tree stand and played Plinko accidentally. You've fallen in the mud. You've dumped your boots out full of water in the swamp. Everyone's had those moments, and those are things that in the moment are frustrating, but they're always laughable when you look back in the rear view. So I think that the problem with those bigger brands, unfortunately for them, is they can't focus on any of that failure because it's going to tarnish them. Then what that does to the industry, and this is an issue that I've had and have noticed, is that then you have a 12-year-old that won't shoot anything if it's not 150 inches or more, and therefore isn't getting any experience, having any good time. And the analogy I use is like you can't go to the gym if you're 400 pounds and walk out 180, the next day. There's a process, and you should love the process, not the grip and grin or the outcome. If you enjoy the process, those things will be a byproduct of. I forget which coach said, but some coach, and I think basketball said.
The more you talk, I see exactly why I was gravitated to you and towards the things, because that's all of the stuff that I preach all of the time in everything that I do, whether it's something on this show, something on my YouTube channel, or any other projects that I work on, is enjoy the process. That's what it's about. When you just said that to me, that's the biggest thing that I hope that people can take, because I feel as a viewer of some of the content that they don't necessarily show the enjoying the process. When you look at feeds of people on social media, a lot of times it's never just like the random picture of, the squirrel at the bottom of the tree or the really cool sunset that you get to see while you're, out in the woods. And I think that's as big of a part of the process. It is enjoying it. It's enjoying those little things, those little moments, not necessarily the kill or the keep in itself.
We put out a lot of hashtags that have some deeper rooted meaning, and they're a bit abrasive in some cases, but once you stop for a second and consider what it is we're talking about, it's meant to get your attention. So one of the first ones we ever put out was never pass. At some point I got sick of people saying you should let that deer walk, or you should let him go and grow, and blah, 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 blah. There's quality deer management, QDMA. There's also healthy deer herd management, which is a more what I would say holistic kind of approach to things. And with never pass, it's never pass on making memories of field, never pass on having a good time, never pass on shooting what gets your pee hot or your heart pumping or makes you feel like Christmas morning, never pass on doing what you love. Don't let someone else dictate what you're doing just because you saw it on TV. You think your buddies are going to rag you for posting on it on social media. So then we parlay that into My Tag, My Hunt, which is a campaign that we put on. It's my tag. I bought it with my money. I'm supporting conservation. I don't know why you need to have an opinion about what it is I'm going to do with my tag. It's mine. I'm not going to tell you what to do with yours. Don't tell me what to do with mine. As long as it's legal and ethical, back off. And also, let's not worry about the modality in which I harvested that ammo. If it's with a trad bow, a compound bow, or a crossbow.
Oh, come on. Crossbows aren't bows. You're not a hunter unless you're using straight archery, old school, no releases, and no feathers on your arrows. You just get a straight shaft.
You're not a real hunter using decoys. You're not a real hunter if you're on private land. You're not a real hunter if you're using, come on. What is the definition of a quote-unquote real hunter? If we're out there experiencing nature and having a good time and doing what we love and harvesting animals in a legal and ethical way, it's bringing more people into the fold, and we need that. We need that. People have said hunting is already overcrowded. I would disagree. Not in contrast to the rest of the entire population of this country. It's not.
Why do we cannibalize on ourselves like that, you think?
I'm not sure. I think it's ego. I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday and Stoic philosophy, and I think I've read the book Ego is the Enemy 6 times. You can't sweep the floor once and expect that it's going to stay clean. Stuff keeps falling on the floor. The dogs get food everywhere. The kids drop stuff. There's dust. There's debris coming in from outside. You need to sweep the floor every day. We got to work on this stuff constantly. It's never a set and forget kind of thing. So hunters need to check themselves. I am of the belief that kindness kills. We just need to make that stuff louder. There's always going to be negative. There's always going to be people that have been raised to believe something that maybe they thought was special to them. Like if their great-granddad and grandpa and their dad all did it this way, and that was maybe the wrong way, that they're going to take offense to you telling them that. But that being said, it won't be helpful to fight fire with fire. So we try to kill them with kindness. So we have another tag, hashtag no buck shame. And anytime someone sees some sort of bullying going on or something like that, someone dissed a 6-year-old for using a crossbow. I was like, oh my God, the 6-year-old can't even pull back a compound bow. What do you... And so, we no buck shame, hashtag no buck shame. We'll search the hashtag and we'll go find these things that, are like Okayest Hunter Nation is like identified. And then we'll go and we'll say we'll kill them with kindness. We'll just bury it with positivity because that 6-year-old, doesn't need to hear that kind of stuff.
And if you missed any of that conversation, it's our Okayest show ever. What it's titled on the podcast channel. You want to if I can't talk, check it out at some point. I swear it's not the extra booze for the new year, but go check that out. And we're going to actually get together with Okayest Hunter and collab again in 2023. So look forward to what we can share is coming with that in the future. But we're going to take a break. Come back with more nostalgic clips, our best of 2022. This is Tailgate Talk. Hey, it's Ritter, and if you follow my socials or listen to our show a lot, I'm sure you've heard me talk about how relaxing and fun archery is. In fact, my wife has joined me and got a bow of her own at the same place I did, Buck Rub Archery. They are your locally owned and operated one-stop shop for all things archery. With the area's largest inventory, they won't be undersold on any bow or crossbow. It's open to the public and the ideal place to find and test a bow before you buy. Plus, they also rent equipment, offer archery lessons, and have space for hosting birthday parties, scouts, or other events. And if you got an old bow that needs to be fixed, they can take care of you as well. Seriously, check them out off I-94 on Silverdale Road or buckrubarchery.com. Welcome back to Tailgate Talk. our best of 2022 moments as we're taking a look back at the previous year before we turn the page towards the next year. I can say specifically one of my, well, there's a few favorite moments. One was when we had, has now become our buddy Vince. I feel like we need to give him an official nickname because, John Resnick, Clam Pro that we know, we kind of just dubbed him Rez. We got to get Vince a nickname, but when they had those guys on the show together and we were talking muskie fishing, that was, to me, a really fun moment because we had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, and that was when we realized that muskie, like hardcore muskie maniacs and hardcore bow hunters are the exact same person.
One and the same. Yeah.
Like that, coming to that conclusion and how it came to that was a great moment. And that show is one, if you haven't heard it, to go back and take a listen to while we're, kind of do the reminiscing. So much fun. It was an absolute blast. Another one stands out was when you brought in a book about venison.
I know, boy, how I can't believe that kind of turned into what it turned into. But last year for Christmas, I got my brother-in-law's different cookbooks. One was camping because they're always camping. The other one, he's a hunter, so I got that. And I happened to actually hang on to one of the books because it didn't come on time. And as I was flipping through it, I'm like, this is amazing. So I happened to reach out to Allie, and we're able to coordinate schedules, and we had her on the show this year.
Allie Doran, author of Venison Every Day.
Yep.
And she had some great advice for some easy ways to use up venison if you've got some in the freezer. When I started paging through your book when Eric had handed it to me, I was like, no, actually, this is pretty legit. Like, she knows her stuff. Like, so that's me giving a compliment to you. Like, you actually impressed me with the book. Like, I remember, like, the chimichurri was the one I was like, oh my gosh, she actually understands what a real chimichurri is. I mean, do you travel a lot? Do you draw some of these inspirations from actually eating and traveling and understanding these cultures, or where's it all come from?
I do. I travel a lot. I read a lot. I'm a big reader. I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit. I'm very fortunate. I live in Pennsylvania now. I went to Auburn University in Alabama, and I feel like it was kind of my high school experience and my college experience were both melting pots. No, I don't travel the world frequently. I'm a toddler mom. I have a toddler. So most of my recipes can be made in under 30 minutes because I get it. I own 2 businesses. I work a lot, and I like to spend time with my kids. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allie, you hit one thing on the head that I think is really important for people to hear and learn is trial and error. That you're like, you know what, I made something messed up. And I feel like a lot of people, when cooking anything at all, because like my wife was kind of the same way. Like I've always been kind of a superfood person, and she has always been able to cook, but it wasn't till, her and I got together and like watching me starting to cook, and she realized like, it's okay to experiment, and you can experiment, and that's what you should do. And like, it's okay to mess up. Like, not everything's going to be perfect. Even to this day, when we cook anything for each other, we do anything, we do notes. And it's not like oh, this is bad, or like you feel bad. Like, she'll like make something, and she'll go, okay, notes, what do you have for me? Or, vice versa. Like, so that it's always about growing and learning. So that your story, I think, is really good one for people to hear, that it's okay to mess things up. Try again.
It is. It's not the end of the world. I mean, I know we all want to respect our meat and respect our harvest, right? Like, nobody wants to just like throw something out. And I'm happy to like troubleshoot with people. I have somebody this week, they made a bear roast. We were really fortunate to have a really nice PA fall black bear that sustained us like through the pandemic, which was really nice. Didn't have to buy any meat. It was awesome. But she had cooked a roast, and she's like, it's still dry. And like, I cooked it for a long time, I feel like, and it's still dry and it's not falling apart like you said it would. She's like, it's in the fridge. I don't know what to do. And I was like, get up tomorrow, put your oven on like 275 or 300, just keep basting it and just keep cooking. She texted me or messaged me on Instagram last night and was like, oh my God, it fell apart tender. I'm like, it's okay. Like, message me. I'm always like here to talk to people. And B, it's okay. Like, just keep going. Sometimes you just have to keep going. I just have this like big saying, feel the fear, do it anyway. Like,
I love it.
I know it's not like terrifying, but sometimes it can be terrifying because you're like, I don't want to waste the meat. I work so hard for this, and what do I do now? So it doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah, my husband has like a rolling notes list of like, especially even still from the cookbook, like this needs to be this way. This needs to be. It takes me a while, and so yeah.
So I love that you are brave enough to say, I'm okay to fail. I'm okay to do this, because that's really the edge of creativity, right? And that's where you find the next best recipe. I think one of my fears, and that I always, like, if we ever do venison in our house, because my wife, and we're going to talk about this at some point, but my wife is very nervous about venison because it can be very gamey, of course. You know, I mean, that's one of the things that a lot of people think about. But what I always worry about, I feel like anytime that I cook something new, there's a moment in time where I think, I really should taste this, but I'm nervous. I hope it tastes okay. And you just got to go through with it, and you got to, you know, just make it happen. And you can always tweak things. It's better to just try and kind of work through that. And I don't know. I mean, this cookbook has been so cool for me because you know what? I thought there was a recipe that I had made out of here, but I must have found it somewhere else. But I have like 14 pages that I have earmarked of all of these different recipes, because it's just different ways to think about it. It's super easy, like you said, under 30 minutes in order to do it. And right now in Wisconsin, you know, our season has been up and running for over a month now, but we talk about this a lot, or one of my favorite terms is freezer management, of how you're trying to get rid of last year's, or if you've got 2 years worth, and just trying to find different adventurous ways of utilizing what you have available instead of paying, you know, I mean, I think I saw a hamburger, like 4 hamburgers was $10 at the grocery store. It's just crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And a couple of things you just said that I would love to pull out. You know, it's really hard when you try something new. And I think a lot of times what I see with wild game is when somebody tries a wild game recipe, they'll try something that's like outside of their comfort zone, and then it's also wild game. What I always recommend people do, especially for like little kids, and you know, if you're just trying to introduce yourself to something new, is pick a familiar recipe that you love already. Like I always like say, does your family love spaghetti? Great. Try the meatballs first. There's a lot in there. There's like balsamic vinegar. There's really good spices and seasonings. There's some caramelized onion and garlic in there. There's some really familiar flavor profiles and a little bit of acid that's going to make everything a little bit more mild. And then paired with something like really familiar, like spaghetti noodles and maybe some red sauce. It's just kind of like adding something in to what you're already doing. So instead of like totally reinventing the wheel, and like maybe you guys don't eat stew a lot, maybe don't start with venison stew because it's huge chunks of venison, right? That's a lot in a mouth. But like if it's, I always encourage people to try new cuts, but like there's nothing wrong with, if you're not sure if you like deer meat, getting a lot of ground and just like, do you really like chili? Make my chili recipe. If you don't think you like wild game, make my chili recipe, please. And then, you know, the whole family will probably put some cheese in there, put some sour cream, like make it how you like it. It doesn't have to be such a departure from what feels like home to you. And
who doesn't love chili?
You know,
like it's the most palatable.
Isn't that the safest way to get somebody into eating venison? Is it chili?
It is. It is, but oh, gosh, like I love chili. Like I'm all about doing something new and different and culinary, but at the same time, you can't beat just like sitting down with like a huge buttery tub of cornbread and some chili. Like
Miss Allie's Kitchen, you can check it out. They got the website. You're on like every social media, which actually I'm on your YouTube right now. As I'm paging the website, and again, the creativity. It's all over the place. Like I'm looking at one here, venison egg roll in a bowl. That's something I've done for years with ground turkey, ground pork. Didn't dawn on me to use ground venison. It's
again, orange and lime, like fresh orange juice and fresh lime juice in the ground. It's so good with a little bit of the sesame oil, your spicy sriracha on top. That's actually a really good one. If you're
and it's super easy. Super
it's so easy.
Low calorie.
But if you're low calorie, but if you eat out a lot and you really like Asian fusion places, maybe you're a more adventurous eater, but you don't know what to do with wild game and you're like, I don't want chili. Try that one.
So what's the most popular recipe that you've ever posted, or whether that's wild game or if that's something else, whatever you think is the most popular one or the one you've gotten a ton of feedback on?
My venison stew recipe is my most popular to date. It is so viral. Like 3 years later, and that was kind of the first jumping off point. I published an Instant Pot venison stew in 2018 before I focused on wild game, and it went viral on Pinterest. I used a spice blend called Herbes de Provence. It's a very simple and straightforward recipe, but it's just like kind of next level. And I give people substitutions, but that's one. And I'm like, guys, go to Walmart and spend $2 on herbs Provence. Like really, it's $2. It's in the spice section and you can get the organic variety. Just do it. And the reviews are just, people love it. So that's my most popular, followed by the chili and then the rose.
So if you want to, I don't know if you want to take a second and just give us a shout out for your website and your Instagram and all of that stuff so people know where to find you.
Sure. Great. Well, I just really appreciate it. A lot of people don't realize, I did write the book. I was actually pregnant with our daughter. I photographed the whole thing myself. It was like a labor of love. And I just, when I opened pre-orders, I only sold like 200 copies. And I was like, okay, well, whatever, that's fine. It was a great project to do. And the fact that the book took off like it is, and it's in large retailers and Cabela's and Bass Pro, and people are like messaging me, I'm just a small town girl and I just like to cook. So yeah, it means a lot. But yes, I'm Allie Doran at Miss Allie's Kitchen. My website is missallieskitchen.com. My book is Venison Every Day. Again, available anywhere books are sold, including Amazon, Cabela's, and Bass Pro. I'm all over social media. My Instagram is miss.allieskitchen. Started too late to get the just the full. So get the dot in there. I'm really active on TikTok too, at Miss Allie's Kitchen. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Pinterest if you want to save some recipes, and YouTube as well. But thank you for having me. It's a giant pleasure, and I just like to talk about food.
A lot of great advice came from that conversation with Allie Doran. Venison Every Day, is her book. You can find it at Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops. It's like a bestseller book. If you want to check out more of the conversation, we got a whole podcast I did with her. It's right here on the iHeartRadio app on our podcast channel. Go check that out. But we're going to get to I'll say two of my favorite moments this last year that happened on the show. And they both have to do with something north of the border. There's my hints I'm going to give you. So we've had the conversation with Allie Doran of Venison Every Day. We had mentioned our Climb Pro Tackle, John Resnick, and our buddy Vince came in. We did a great muskie show on that. Speaking of muskies, cut some muskies, and we're involved in some muskies up in Canada. With Ballards Black Island, did the show trip this year, packed the island, had a lot of fun. You got to come with the first time, Eric Tasker. And
bopped him on the head.
Exactly. When we sat down at the table with Gary Moeler, the general manager guy who runs everything at Ballards Black Island, there may have been a few beverages involved before we started recording.
I just remember saying, we have to start recording soon.
And that conversation was pretty funny, and some pretty cool memories came from exactly that. Gary Moeler, GM, the man of Ballards Black Island here in Canada, where we've been saying. So thank you again for having us, by the way. It's been an awesome time.
We look forward to it. I look at the group that was here this week. I hope we can get everybody back together, get the band back together again next year. And the question is E-Train going to bump Wags? I mean, we don't know what kind of stick that guy has. He's not here.
Wags was a pitcher, so I don't know. He's not much of a stick. He was more of a throwing guy.
Okay, so he might be out. We never know.
He might be out.
At this point, we don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. After the run that I had last night, I feel like I need to come back. So,
do you want to explain a bit of that run last night? Because I took Tasker out last night for a little 45-minute little sunset cruise, as I'll call it, and it was more of a sunset sleigh fest very quickly.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I have to complain about is, or the only thing I have to complain about, is that you got to get new maps, because there's actually a bay called Ritter Bay.
Oh, there is.
There is, which I don't know if you know about this or not.
Self-named.
Well,
no.
Boat number 6 named, actually.
E-Train named it after I was in there a few times, and I went throw there, throw there, throw there, throw there, throw there, and it was.
So in the 40 to 45 minutes that we were out and we worked this bay, I think Ritter called 7 of the 11 fish that I caught.
Nice.
So he was on it.
Yeah,
I mean, he knew what he was talking about, and he just knew, throw it right there, and I probably missed the spot, which is not surprising. And then I would have to recast again, and I'd probably get hung up. And then on the third try, I would actually get it.
No, it wasn't that bad.
No, it was not that bad. But it was 7 smallmouth. One, the biggest was like 15 and a half.
Over 16.
16. Oh, that was the 16 and a quarter. And then, 4 northern that were between 22 and 25 inches. and it was all within 40 to 45 minutes. I mean, we just went in and just absolutely hammered them. And
my highlight wasn't even that.
That was a blast.
I threw a top water and only myself, and I told him, Tasker, I'm going to put on a show here. So when you see or hear the slosh, immediately turn and look at me, because there's going to be a blow up, and there's going to be about 2 seconds, and then you're going to see the biggest hook set of your life.
I thought he was going to jump out of the boat, to be honest.
Not going to lie, Gary, my question, I said to Tasker, I said, I only hope this rod can handle the hook set.
Yes.
It did. It definitely handled it, but I got to have a sweet little blow up to close it out.
It was quite a sight to see, because the way that he was casting from the back of the boat, throwing kind of out to the side of me, I could see the top water spinning and making all the
I was throwing a Berkeley Chapo or
noise right next to me, and there was 2 or 3 times that I actually just watched it.
I had 2 swipes that missed, and then I went right back in the third time and blow up.
And it was smash, and then Ritter set the hook. You know, he always does the 1-2 hook set, and I was thinking,
this boat's getting flipped over.
It's either he's going in, the rod is not going to hold up, or the fish is not going to have a lip anymore. And
one of the 3.
Yeah.
And everything was so good. Got the fish in the boat, and we were all set. So,
all right. Now, speaking of catching fish,
Eric
Tasker's had a lot of questions all week long. I don't understand why we don't do this. What is this? So this is your chance.
Well, let me just say that I'm not an expert guide service. So what I know, so you just talked about jigging, and what I have experienced this week is I think I know why I don't like ice fishing, because I don't like to sit there
and stare at an 8-inch hole all day.
But I also don't like to just sit there. I'd rather be casting something, doing more than just bouncing something off the bottom of the lake. Okay, so and this is different body of water, different way of fishing, all of that. So I think a couple years ago when I caught my really nice walleye in Lake Erie, what we did was the crawler harness and all of that. Okay, so you can buy Canadian night crawlers, okay,
correct,
in America. I've not seen a worm since I got here.
All right.
Where are they at?
Where are they? Oh, for one, you cannot outfish the Shiner minnow. It can't be done. And I think Ruben proved that today when those fish are so full of those bugs that you wouldn't think they would take one more bite, yet they will eat the Shiner minnow. You mentioned pulling spinners. Right before you got here, basically I had spent the better part of 2 weeks pulling spinners on shorelines, pulling spinners out in the flats. And there, up here, it's like the fish are so aggressive that you can just use a plastic. I mean, I was fishing those.
I did not touch a single piece of live bait at all.
You were just being stubborn about that, though.
Well, by today it became, it was.
I refused to do that.
Yeah, I was proving a point. I refused to touch live bait.
But pulling those spinners deeper in the flats, and again, it's more of a speed thing. We always say speed kills when fishing slow. Speed kills. Speed up. Fish more water. Fish faster.
Which is my fishing style. Fishing faster, fishing hard, going after those aggressive fish, just causing the reactionary strikes. I love patterning, too, and I will say, like, this trip being so much different than those previous, to find a pattern has been tough, because even when I find a pattern one day, it's not held up the next day, because we found the very first day that we were out, smallmouth were holding hard on the bull rushes. They were definitely holding on that stuff. We try and do that the second day, non-existent. They were stacked up on reefs. Yeah. They were also on reefs on first day, which I would have expected to be able to drop shot them on reefs, because it's just the time of year that that's how you're going to fish smallmouth. That's how I always would. Today, going out on reefs, drop shotting, I didn't catch a single smallmouth.
No, today
it was shocking to me.
Yeah,
the fish move with frequency, and that's one of the challenges up here. And we talked a little bit about the guiding and the importance of having a guide, is that because there's so much structure out here. 14,000 islands, a gazillion reefs. The fish move with great frequency. So you can almost guarantee that if you're catching walleyes one day in one area, most likely they're not going to be in that exact same spot the next day. They're going to be nearby, but probably not in the same exact spot. Now, normally the bass, just a funky year with this high water. You're right.
Yeah.
Normally this time of year they're on those shallow reefs, and you can go out there and you can pull cranks over the top, or you can drop shot them or whatever, and you're just going to catch a pile of them. But we'll hopefully see some of that as we get closer to September. It's interesting that the walleyes, have a tendency to leave the reefs in the fall, and the bass move on like thick, where you can, basically spot lock yourself on the top of a rock pile and just sit there. And every day you kind of start from scratch, and you have to try to figure out where they want to be today.
You talked about just like what's the experience been like and all that. What I will say is, if you want to be a better angler, fish with really good anglers, because Gary and I were on the same side of the boat for the entire day yesterday, and I just kept watching what you were doing and just the different action that you had on your jig that you were putting, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing differently than what you're doing, but you were catching all the fish and I was not. And
It's the juice.
well, you know what?
Gary's on the juice.
It's the varsity team versus the JV is what it was. And the first thing that he said to me was, I don't think you want to be that close to me. So if you want to go toe-to-toe, we can go toe-to-toe. So I moved to the back of the boat, and then Gary still caught all the fish. But what I will say about that is fishing the water and going out and seeing how everybody's doing it and being able to fish next to you two guys for the majority of the week has been really cool for me, because I'm by no means like a fanatic about fishing. I love fishing. I love going out and fishing, and I love going out and doing it and experiencing it. I've been very open about the fact that, I don't know, I never fished a chatterbait until this year, and all of a sudden you and I go out on a lake and go kayak fishing.
I'm like, this is the most versatile bait ever. You need to throw a chatterbait. If you throw nothing, throw a chatterbait.
And what I have always thought was, I'm not going to use something, and I'm not going to spend the money on it until I see it actually work. So you were using an amputee all day.
Well,
you didn't even need the crawfish legs on the plastic bait, and it was still working.
And I find myself using more and more of these bass fishing plastics. It's for walleyes. I mean, they work.
They do.
Yeah.
And which makes sense when, we have this huge crayfish population in Lake of the Woods, and a lot of times the walleyes are feeding on them, that you should be using a bait that...
Look at the big walleye that I caught yesterday.
Yeah.
What was I using? I was using a Z-Man Canada craw, one of their Elastec giant craws. I mean, it's the whole thing is like the claws float, so I set it down on a big jig. Usually I'd do a Texas rig, but I just put a jig head through it, and it sits in the bottom, and the claws float up and just like look like a crawfish on the bottom. It's like posing at something.
Yeah.
Any fish is going to crush that.
Yeah.
And if walleyes are eating crawfish, they're going to eat that.
And you're just, part of it when I'm out there, as often as I get a chance to, you just like messing around with different things. And it's like, let's put this on, see what happens. See if I can get a fish to eat it, see what happens. Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I just caught one on that. So...
Well, we're 30 seconds into our fishing trip, and GM on low has already got a muskie in the boat. So that was, I knew we were going to be in for a good day.
Better than lucky than good.
The one thing about Gary is that Gary Moeler is always Gary. GM is GM. A lot of fun quotes come from it. That was a lot of fun fishing, and I think almost as much fun as the fishing was recording that show and doing it. But there's a lot of great info that was in there, and a lot has changed actually since we talked about border crossings and things like that. But if you want to go back and check that out, you get a lot of info on what it's like to go to an all-inclusive fishing place in Canada and what that experience is like. So if you ever thought about it or wondering going into the next year, a lot of great info. Go and check out that show. But speaking of Canada, after we got back from that, we got to talk to one of my favorite Canadian anglers, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro Jeff Gustafson, a.k.a. Gussie, a.k.a. the Great Canadian Snow Leopard, all the nicknames that Dave Mercer has given him on stage. But it was great to catch up with Gussie and talk about what it was like fishing his home body of water and just what it's like being a Canadian, kind of out of his water, fishing with all these southern guys, and really what it takes to get through, fishing professionally on that level A lot of great info from Gussie.
Yeah, where were you guys fishing up in Canada?
We were like the Miles Bay area, did a lot of fishing in Miles Bay and stuff like that. We were actually staying with Ballards Black Island. We go up there, I host a trip and bring a bunch of people every year and go and fish and just have a blast slaying some big smallmouth and, stupid walleyes.
Did you catch some smallies in Miles Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was slamming a really good, they were like just setting up on points. It was weird. They were sitting on like rock points. They'd be mixed in with walleyes.
Really, huh? Cool. Yeah, I've actually... I live up at Lake of the Woods for anyone that doesn't know. So that's where the boys are talking about. And I've been to Miles Bay 3 or 4 times, and I've never really, like, I live on the north end of the lake, so I'm like a $300 gas bill away from that bay. But I have gone down there several times and like caught them good around other areas down in that part of the lake. But I've never really had a great day in Miles Bay, so that's interesting. Lots of walleyes, muskies, but I've never done awesome for bass.
It's funny you mentioned the gas bill. We actually, while we were out there, we were having a slow afternoon one day, and one of the guys, Gary, runs a resort, when we were fishing with him, he goes, "Hey, we should at this point just run to Kenora and grab a pizza." And I'm like, "Yeah, a gas bill. Okay, let's do it."
Yeah,
be a $500 pizza.
Mention you being one of only 3 current Bassmaster Elite Series anglers from Canada, soon to be 4. Coop Gallant, who just qualified. It'd be cool to have another Canadian in there. Is there like a huge bass scene outside of? I think there's like is there maybe 4 or 5 major tournaments in kind of your neck of the woods?
Our season's short. Like, it's catch and release only until July 1st. So from July through September into early October, there's a tournament almost every weekend that you want to fish if you wanted to fish them. I'm lucky. I grew up, fishing these tournaments from a young age. We have grass, clear water, rivers, dirty water. And I think, like, I know I've heard Chris and Corey sort of say the same thing in the past. Like, you get to see a lot of different situations. For me, like going down south, just like where I have issues is like when places flood or water draw, like weird stuff like that. Usually that's no good for me. But it's you learn the hard way on it, all that kind of stuff a couple times, and then you hopefully smarten up. So this past year was probably like my best year that I've ever had consistency wise. But
I was going to say, congrats on that. Obviously making the classic.
Yeah, no, made the classic. That's the goal. It's a lot harder to do than you think, and you gotta catch some fish to be part of that. So it's going to be exciting. It's in Knoxville, where obviously last year I had a great tournament, won a blue trophy. So it's going to be exciting to get back there again, and I'm going to be able to push hard on trying to figure out what those smallmouths are doing. I
assume you fished with Chris and Corey before, right? You're talking about the Johnston brothers.
Yeah.
Is their deck of their boat always as messy as it is every time I see it on Bass Live? Like, I have anxiety staring at them. I'm like, you are going to kick rods in or fall in yourself sometime.
No, their trucks are like that. Back and inside, their bedroom will be like that for the week. I mean, yeah.
That's funny.
What would you say was the biggest hurdle, being someone from Canada coming into the States for, fishing? And
I mean, for me, I grew up a regular guy. The cost. I mean, I was really lucky. I had a friend from Minnesota that I'd guided a few times fishing and hunting that had the means to help me out and got me going. Once I kind of got into that, I started on the FLW tour. Once I got into that, it was a lot of surviving those first few years. And I did good enough. I didn't light it up. I didn't make the cup, for 3 or 4 years. But I was probably cashing checks in, a little over half the tournaments maybe, and had my entries and a lot of my expenses covered. So I was making some money, and I was just able to keep doing it. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of the regular guys. And I hate that part of what we do, but there's a lot of expense in it. And you definitely got to be able to do the social media, whatever you need to do to keep your sponsors happy. But like, you got to catch fish too. So whether you want to be a tournament angler or guide, I mean, just time on the water, that's a huge part of it. But the biggest hurdle for me was just catching. I got lucky and caught a couple breaks, got going with it, and have been able to keep at it.
So fishing on the Bassmaster Elite Series, do you have like an arch nemesis? And I mean like that one person that you just like to beat every time. Like, there's got to be one guy that just feels a little bit sweeter when you place better than them.
Corey Johnston, for sure. Like, the guy that I like beat the most. I'm careful because like I used to chirp at him lots and like cock off to him, and every time I would eat my words. I just never say it anymore, really, to say anything to him. But that's my guy. There's a couple guys that I get along with just about everybody. There's a couple guys that I don't love that I want to beat, but no, I mean, mostly everyone kind of gets along. But yeah, Corey for sure. And probably if you polled all the anglers, he would be one of the top guys, I bet.
I could see that. And now going back, with the Classic being in Knoxville and where you're going to be, how angry do you think he would be if you could win a Classic before he even wins an event?
Yeah, no, he's got to be hating it. And I mean, he's going to win one, but he's been close a lot of times. And yeah, it's hard to win. They are hard to win. But yeah, if I managed to pull that off, there would definitely be some chirping going on.
What do you think would eat him more, you winning a Classic or Coop winning a trophy before he wins one?
Ooh. Probably me winning the Classic.
Oh, I love that.
Funny.
We all like Coop, and we're pulling for him and stuff. So and he's super good too. I'm probably thinking he's gonna have a Shakira performance here in his rookie season. I bet wouldn't surprise me.
You mentioned Sturgeon Bay. Do you have a area you prefer? You've got a lot of, I'm not saying give me a hot spot, but I mean, is there an area that you like to fish a lot in around Sturgeon Bay? Are you lakeside, bayside, north, south?
The last few times I like fishing up north just because you're not going to be necessarily playing bumper boats as much. But man, not very often that the biggest fish don't get caught in little sturgeon or maybe in Riley's. But, if you're going there and you want to win, you probably got to find where the pack is in little sturgeon every day. And it's going to be in a different spot every day. And that's more than anywhere I've ever fished. That's where just keeping an open mind and playing the conditions is the deal. Yeah. And when you find that spot where you can pull down and catch one every cast in the same little hole or ditch or hard black spot, whatever it is,
nailed it.
That's fine. You got to catch a bunch to get a giant bag usually, and that's
Yeah, that's always been my bread and butter area too. I spent a lot of time there, and my personal best is just over 6 that's come out of little sturgeon. So
I actually, and I'm not I was going to sound like I'm a one-upper, but I got my biggest smallmouth is a 760, and it's probably been, I don't know, this was probably 2014 maybe, and it was a tagged fish, and I caught it the day before one of those NABC tournaments, and the Sturgeon Bay Open was the following weekend, and I caught it on a Friday. The following Thursday or Friday, the day before the Open, Chris and Corey Johnson's dad, Lynn, caught the same fish because it had the tag in it. They pulled up to me and hey, Gus, you got a scale. Lynn caught a big one, and he pulls it out of the live one. I saw the tag on it. I'm like, dude, that's the same fish I caught, I bet.
No way.
Insane.
Of it on my phone. So yeah, look at the number. Yeah, same fish. So I actually caught it. There's a little 1-footer about a couple hundred yards into Little Sturgeon from the main boat ramp.
Oh, I know exactly where that is.
It's not a secret spot.
No.
I actually caught it off that reef, and they caught it the following Friday or a week later up in front of the Cedars.
Wow. So all the way across, just on the other side.
The other side of the bay, yeah.
There's Gussie. We had Ballards, Black Island. I mean, we got to wrap the show talking about Canada and Canada fishing because we had so much fun doing that. And next year, headed back, we'll do another trip, Ballards, Black Island. It looks like it's going to be sometime in August again. We'll get details on that coming out as we get into the new year here. But it's been fun looking back on 2022. A goal? You have anything that stands out going into 2023, Eric Tasker?
Yeah, why don't we just go big, and I'll just say I'd like to catch a marlin in Cabo when we go in a month. How about that? I'm just going to shoot right for the top right off the bat.
I like having goals. We got to have goals. I've actually got to arrow a buck and recover it next year. This year, I guess I should say at this point now. So there's my goals. You got your goals. Would love to hear what your goal is for the new year. Hit us up on socials @On the Tailgate. Until next week's show, have a happy and safe new year. We'll catch up next time. It's Tailgate Talk.